Hello everyone, welcome to Clarity for Show, and I welcome you all to Daily ARD and ESI Current Affairs series for NABARD exam 2025. And this episode is the second part of July 2025. So let's discuss with the most important questions, okay, from July second part. Okay, so the first question, if you see, is with reference to the recently released RECSS findings for July 2025. Consider the following statements. So, the first statement says that RBI's Rural Economic Conditions and Sentiments Survey, that is RCSS, reveals that 76.6% of the rural households reported an increase in consumption. Okay, the second statement, that is statement number B, says that findings of this particular survey, that is RECSS findings, so it indicates that there has been rising income, expanding financial inclusion, growing household optimism in rural India. Okay. Then the statement C says RECSS was launched in September 2023. So out of these three statements, you need to say which statement is the correct statement. Okay. So the answer to this question is option number B. That is only statement B is correct. Okay. So if you see why the statements are correct, first thing you need to know what is RECSS. Okay, so this is your Rural Economic Conditions and Sentiments Survey. Okay, RECSS stands for Rural Economic Conditions and Sentiments Survey. It is not a survey of RBI. Okay, and second thing is what, that RECSS was not launched in 2023. Okay, so let's see this news in details. So the Rural Economic Conditions and Sentiments Survey, that is RECSS, it serves as a vital tool to evaluate the real world impact of the various government schemes and the rural development programs. So first thing that it would obviously, as the name suggests, it deals with rural India. Okay, first thing. Now you know that directly who is involved with rural India? That is NABARD. So therefore, RECSS is released by NABARD and not RBI. So that's why the statement A was wrong. When was it launched? It was launched in September 2024. So therefore, statement C, that is why it was wrong. All right. So these are the two key things that you have to see. And it is a what? It's a vital tool wherein they will be able to evaluate the real world impact of the various government schemes and also the rural development schemes in rural India, right? So, what are the key findings from the July 2025 report? Is that firstly, there has been increase in consumption. 76.6% households reported a rise in consumption this year. So, therefore, the 76.6% becomes important. Second important thing was that there has been income growth. How much? 39.6 percentage of the surveyed households reported an increase in income. All right. And till now, from September 2024 to July 2025, there has been 6 rounds of the survey. And out of these 6 rounds of the survey, this July 2025 report, you will see that they have recorded the highest increase in income. Okay. Next is the financial inclusion. The 20.6% of the households reported a rise in the financial savings, and the July 2025 report recorded the highest share of monthly income being spent on consumption, which is 65.757 percentage. Okay, so these four figures are only ones that it is important. Now, since it is a survey, so you'll see a lot of data are given, but those data are minor data. Okay, so you can just, because these four things are directly related to the findings, so therefore you can just remember this four you can say datas. Okay, number one, increase in income, how much? Income growth, how much? Financial inclusion, how much? And the highest share of monthly income being spent on consumption, right? Let's move to question number two then. So what does question number two states? If you see again, here it's another thing which is about rural tech collab. Okay, so here we need to identify the incorrect ones, right? Ministry of Statement A says Ministry of Rural Development launched the portal, this is Rural Tech Collab, to unify and support rural technology startups in India. Statement B says three targeted areas include agriculture, SHG, and rural development. And statement C says that the portal provides a structured and transparent onboarding mechanism for the tech partners to work with NABARD. So, which of these statements are incorrect? Okay. The answer to this question is option number A. That is only statement B is correct. Rest statement A and C are what? Sorry, statement C is correct. Statement A and B are incorrect. Okay, so why they are incorrect? Let's see. So first of all, when we talk about this Rural Tech Collab portal, okay, so this is NABARD's portal and not Ministry of Rural Development. So therefore, statement A becomes wrong. Okay, so NABARD's Rural Tech Collab, it's a dedicated portal launched by NABARD on the 44th Foundation Day, and this is a tech-enabled platform. What is the main aim of this particular platform? That is to bring together fintechs, agritechs, and digital service providers. It would facilitate innovation, co-creation of smart, scalable, and inclusive solution. Statement B was given that there are three targeted areas. What are the three targeted areas? Agriculture, rural development, and rural financial services, and not SHG. SHG was mentioned here, which was wrong. This is the three targeted areas of rural tech collab is what? That is agriculture, rural development, and rural financial services. The portal provides a structured, transparent onboarding mechanism for the tech partners to work with NABARD, and also this portal will have access to NABARD's grassroots network, that is SHG, FPOs, NGOs, cooperative banks, and rural institutions. This particular portal supports policy goals under Digital India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. I hope this rural tech collab is clear to everyone. Let's move to question number 3 then. Which among the following fertilizer companies signed a 5-year agreement with Saudi Arabia's Medan to import 3.1 million metric tons of DAP fertilizer annually starting from financial year 2025-26? Whether it's Gripco, whether it's Indian Potash Limited, Coromandel International, none of them or all of them. So answer to this question is option number E, that is all of them. Fertilizer companies Gripco, Indian Potash, and Coromandel International. Three of these companies have signed a memorandum of understanding, or you can say an agreement with Saudi Arabia's company, that is Medan. Okay, so let's see what are the important points that you need to jot down from this particular news. That India saw the fertilizer agreement for DAP imports. So majorly three Indian fertilizer farms, that is IPL, Gripco, and Coromandel International, they have signed how many years? 5-year agreement. Okay, 5-year agreement. So this 5 years is what it stands from financial year 25 to financial year 30, and it would be extendable by mutual consent. So the agreement is signed with Saudi Arabia's Medan. They may also ask this company in exam, so you need to remember this name and how much they will import. I mean, how much these three companies will import from Saudi Arabia's Medan. That is 3.1 million metric tons of DAP fertilizer annually starting from this year. Okay. So volume commitment is what? 3.1 million metric tons per annum. That means over 5 years it will be 30 lakh metric tons. Okay. Now DAP is the second most used fertilizer in India after urea. This is again another data that you can remember. And India currently imports over 60% of its DAP needs. Again, one of the VVI point. Okay, with China and Saudi Arabia among the top suppliers. Again, number third point is also very, very important. Number one point you need to remember is DAP second most utilized fertilizer in India after urea. Second thing that India imports 60% of its DAP needs from other countries, specifically China and Saudi Arabia. Okay. However, due to ongoing Chinese export restrictions, prices have been volatile. So that is why prompting India what? To diversify and secure stable sources. Also aligns with the government's vision to reduce dependency on any single country and ensure uninterrupted supply during global disruptions. Okay. So with this news, let us revise some of the most important fertilizers. Okay, so this will cater to your agriculture part also. Okay, so that's how you need to correlate your current affairs with the core or static parts, right? So we were talking about DAP. So if you see regarding DAP, you know it is diammonium phosphate. So it has two major components, that is nitrogen and phosphorus, right? So nitrogen is in the form of what? Ammonia. So it is a ammoniacal. If you consider nitrogen as fertilizer, it's an ammoniacal fertilizer. How much nitrogen? 18% nitrogen. And how much phosphorus? 46% phosphorus. So it is very rich in phosphorus, right? Then urea, it contains 96% nitrogen. SSP contains 16% phosphorus, and rock phosphate contains 35%. I've written here 35%, but it is present in the range of 30 to 40%. Okay, so there may a range may differ. Then potassic fertilizers, if you see you can say potassic fertilizer is your MOP, muriate of potash, or which is chemically KCl, right? That is, it has 60% potassium. And then we have potassium sulfate, 48% potassium. This is majorly used in crops where chlorine is, you can say, injurious. What are the crops where the chlorine is injurious? One is your tobacco and the sugar crops like your potato, right? Sugarcane, all this kind of crops, we use potassium sulfate. So with this, even ARD also we have catered to. Next, we'll come to question number 4. So consider the following statements about the recently released UN SDG report 2025, and you need to identify the incorrect statement. Okay. The first statement says that regions most affected by hunger prevalence is sub-Saharan America and Southern Asia. Youth unemployment is nearly 3 times that of the adult unemployment. And statement says is that among the different SDGs, SDG 4 is the least funded goal. So which among these statements is incorrect? Okay. So answer to this question would be option number E. That is, statement A and statement C are incorrect. So why it is incorrect and what are the important points that you need to know from this report? Let's discuss. So if you see this UN SDG report 2025, who released it? Obviously United Nations, and this was released at the high level political forum. Okay, so what are the key highlights that we need to see? Number one is SDG 2, which is zero hunger, right? So if you see about zero hunger, 717 to 757 million people are affected by hunger, which is 9.1% of the global population in 2023. And the regions most affected is sub-Saharan Africa. So in this question, I have deliberately put America here because you sometimes what happens in exam that we skip off the small things, right? So you need to be very attentive while studying. I mean, while reading the statements. Okay. Right. It's a simple thing. You all know that there is no such thing as sub-Saharan America. Rather, it should be sub-Saharan Africa. But sometimes we just see sub-Saharan, so we just think that it must be Africa only. Okay. So that's why the statement A was wrong. So the most regions most affected from the hunger is number one, Sub-Saharan Africa, number two is Southern Asia. If you see about SDG 4, so 57% target shows no progress or are regressing. And SDG 8, that is decent work and economic growth, 57.8% workers globally in informal employment. This is an important data. You can use it in descriptive. And second thing is that youth unemployment in 2024 was 12.9%, which is 3x of the adult rate. Okay, adult unemployment was 3.7 and youth unemployment was 12.9. So that is 3 times of the adult rate. So that's why statement B was correct. Then SDG 14, if you see life below water, this is the least funded SDG and not SDG number 4. Okay, so SDG 14 is the least funded SDG. Now, why we have seen that the SDGs are not at par, isn't it? Now, what is the major reason for the negative trends? What are the negative trends which is undermining the progress of the SDGs? Number one, climate crisis. Number two is your extreme poverty, and number three is funding shortfalls. So these 3 points you can mention sometimes if needed in the descriptive. Okay, but then what are the positive developments? Number one, that 50%, over 50% of the global population are now socially protected. Okay, and 2.2 billion malarial cases have been averted. Global HIV infections have also dropped 14% since 2010. Moving to the last question for the day is your question number 5. So recently, World Economic Forum has released the Global Gender Gap Report, okay, for 2025. So you need to identify the correct statement. Rank of India in 2025 report, 132nd position out of 148 countries. Whether this statement is correct or wrong. 123 years would be needed globally. okay, to achieve full gender parity at the current pace. So whether this statement is wrong or correct. Global Gender Gap Report measures gender parity across four core dimensions. So the answer to this question is option number C. That is statement 2 and 3 are correct. That means India's position is not 132nd. Then what is India's position? We will see. So let's see about the Global Gender Gap Report. Who publishes it? World Economic Forum. Okay. And India's rank is 131, not 132nd out of the 148 countries. If you see the global gender gap, so it is 68.8%. Okay. Global gender gap is 68.8%. That means the world would need 123 years to reach full gender parity at the current pace. And gender gap report, there are four core dimensions: economic participation, opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, political empowerment. These are the four core dimensions. Okay. Now, what is the status of India? India's rank in the economic participation and opportunity is 143rd. Female labor force participation in India is below 25%. Another things if you see is number one, skewed ratio at birth, number two, high anemia prevalence in the woman aged 15 to 49 years. Care economy infrastructure like child care, elder care, maternity benefits, this also remains severely underdeveloped, and gender inequality leads to wasting over 50% of the human capital. So if you see these 4 points, you can easily use in descriptive, isn't it? So reports can be very helpful while writing descriptive, right? So just jot it down whenever you get such kind of data. Okay, so that's all for today. So we'll meet again. All right. Till then, keep revising and keep studying. Thank you.